release of an autopsy report detailing the gruesome death of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez.
David was charged with first-degree murder and mutilating a body after Hernandez's dismembered remains were found inside the trunk of his car at a Hollywood tow yard just last year. David has pleaded not guilty to all charges.
His lawyers are now pushing for prosecutors to quickly present their case in an effort to challenge the evidence against him.
NBC Los Angeles reporter Brittany Hope is live outside that courthouse for us. Brittany, first, the judge just set a preliminary hearing for May 1st and will allow the defense to view evidence ahead of that date. What else are we learning at this point?
Yeah, so we just got out of that hearing about 10 minutes ago. The big headline from this is simply how much data, how much evidence that we're dealing with. The district attorney's office, the prosecutors in this case, said that there's 40 terabytes of data that they're trying to figure out how to upload so that all parties involved can take a look. And this is an example. Over the past 4.5 to 5 weeks, LAPD alone has been trying to upload all of their documents, their evidence. They've only gotten 30% done, and that's using multiple computers. So certainly there's an issue with technology in this digital age with so many iPhones and iPads and different devices that are being used. They're trying to figure out how to download all of that. Another issue that they talked about is all of the different pieces of evidence that need to be sealed that no one has seen yet. That includes grand jury transcripts, a wiretap that allegedly happened last year, and search warrants. Now, another big headline that came out of this is more details about David and his own personal devices and what those devices allegedly had on them. The prosecutor said that on David's iPhone, there is a significant amount of child porn. And because of that, because there's parties involved, can take a look. And this is an example. Over the past 4.5 to 5 weeks, LAPD alone has been trying to upload all of their documents, their evidence. They've only gotten 30% done, and that's using multiple computers. So certainly there's an issue with technology in this digital age with so many iPhones and iPads and different devices that are being used. They're trying to figure out how to download all of that. Another issue that they talked about is all of the different pieces of evidence that need to be sealed that no one has seen yet. That includes grand jury transcripts, a wiretap that allegedly happened last year, and search warrants. Now, another big headline that came out of this is more details about David and his own personal devices and what those devices allegedly had on them. The prosecutor said that on David's iPhone, there is a significant amount of child porn. And because of that, because there's special rules and laws in place and protections, it's going to be an issue getting a lot of that information too.
Brittany, tell us more about the autopsy report. What did it show?
Pretty gruesome details. So we waited 7 months for this. Celeste's family waited 7 months. It was under seal because of a court order, because they wanted to protect the investigation. But we learned that she died of homicide, multiple stab wounds, at least 2 wounds in her chest. We know 1 wound pierced her liver. Brutal details that the family has said they're still trying to process.
All right, Brittany Hope live in Los Angeles for us. Brittany, thank you.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated.
So they say he stabbed her up. She's probably chilling in the car with him. They probably started tweaking and arguing. He probably on drugs and he stabbed her up or something. It's crazy. Does David think he can't lose?
We'll pay you to get your CDL and give you a truck driving job with one of the nation's safest carriers, Railtrain.
Hey everybody, Dr. G here. I'm a clinical and forensic psychologist as well as a body language expert, and today we're going to be analyzing the behavior and body language of David Burke. Before we get started with this, a couple of quick things. One, I wanted to make sure you know this is not a psychological evaluation of any kind. These are just my opinions. In addition to that, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go. American singer-songwriter David has recently been charged with the murder of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. There's been speculation for months that he would eventually be charged after her body was recovered from the front trunk of his Tesla. Today, we're going to be looking at 2 different clips. First, very briefly, we're going to be looking at the DA talking about the charges. I just want you to see what some of the charges are because it's fairly complicated. And then we're going to be looking at David in court. We're going to be looking at his behavior and his body language. All right, let's just jump right in.
Is that, again, there are 3 sets of charges that have been brought. The first-degree murder with special circumstances. And again, those special circumstances are lying in wait.
So I want to explain what some of these mean, because there's the implication that if they're charging with this, they must have some very interesting evidence because they are very, very specific.
That Celeste went to Mr. Burke's home on the night of April 23rd, 2025, as alleged in the complaint, at his invitation.
So what they're saying is that he invited Celeste to his place with the specific intention of murder.
And again, was not heard from again. The second is a special circumstance being that this murder was committed for financial gain. As the evidence will show in court, the financial gain was for Mr. Burke to maintain his very lucrative musical career.
The financial gain piece, I think, can be confusing because it's not that he would get money from her. The idea is preventing himself from losing money. So in other words, if he can silence her, then she won't be able to expose him or something like that. We don't know what was said between them. Maybe she said, I'm going to go to the press about us, or whatever it is.
Whatever, right?
But the point is that
I swear I had that thought too. Like the first video we watched, I had a thought like that could probably be like what happened, bro. He probably messed up, and you feel me? This girl probably either lied about her age, or he's weird, so he probably was with it. They say they found multiple pictures of her body. Like he weird, bro. Like you can look at her and tell she's way too young. I don't give a fuck if you're 20 years old, bro, 18 when you first met her, bro. She's 14, bro. Like, you're dumb as fuck. Like, you're old enough to know, like, she's too young, bro. Like, 18, she's young. And then they say they found multiple child pornography, so she's probably not the only one. So it's like, yeah, he's fucked. He's fucked.
They're suggesting that they have enough evidence to prove that that's why this was done. That he invited her over and then did it for this reason.
That Celeste
that's probably why. She's probably trying to hush him.
On that particular night. The third charge, in addition to lying in wait and for financial gain, is murdering a witness to an investigation.
And what this would imply is that because of Celeste's age, that there was an investigation related to that. So this would have stopped that investigation. So these charges are very, very serious. They're also very, very specific. So what's implied is that if they are going for these special circumstances, they believe they have enough evidence to actually prove that. This case has been very strange. It took so long to arrest him. There's been a lot of odd things about this case, and I expect that it will continue to be a little bit odd. But what we're going to do now that we've talked about the special circumstances so you can better understand the case that's being made, now let's look at David in court.
Gina Peter, on behalf of our client, David Burke, is in custody.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Burke.
Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman for the people, Your Honor.
Thank you.
So the first thing you may be noticing is that he looks remarkably calm. There's different areas that I'm always looking at in situations like this. The brow,
He
we're looking at the
evaluating
blink
his
rate,
chat.
we're looking at the mouth. And right now, he's looking around at who's speaking, but otherwise appears very, very calm.
And counsel, on behalf of your client, do you waive formal reading of the complaint, advisement of rights, including armed forces?
Now you notice that head position he just moved to.
Do you waive formal reading of the complaint, advisement?
So what we can see is that he turns his chin up and that exposes his neck. Now typically we associate that with someone who doesn't feel threatened. They look at this situation, they feel like they're above it in a sense. They're willing to turn their nose up to the situation, so to speak, because unconsciously we tend to protect ourselves when we feel threatened. So what this says right here is that he's not feeling threatened at all at the moment.
Of rights, including armed forces and veterans' rights, enter a plea of not guilty, denying any and all special allegations, enhancements, and priors.
Interesting.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you're requesting a preliminary hearing within the period.
Yes, Your Honor. From the media reports, apparently there have been 4 months of secret grand jury proceedings.
He's so calm it almost appears cold because you're seeing no emotion on the face at all.
None.
Not even really seeing stress right here.
Apparently,
Yes, I don't see no
4
stress.
months of secret grand jury proceedings.
As a forensic psychologist, I'm trained to spot blind spots, the details that you can miss that change the whole story. The news has blind spots too, and Ground News can help you see them. Ground News is a news comparison platform that pulls from over 50,000 sources and makes it easier to understand what's actually happening. You can see the political bias of each outlet, along with insights like factuality, ownership, and how coverage breaks down across the spectrum. My favorite feature is called Blind Spots. It shows which stories are being disproportionately covered by one side of the spectrum, so you can see what you might be missing. Here's a story the left is largely ignoring. The Supreme Court unanimously ruled that appeals courts must defer to immigration judges in asylum cases. This is a decision that's seen as a major win for the Trump administration. Here's a story that's barely getting traction on the right. President Trump said most of the people we had in mind are obviously seeing out. That's great. Let's get back to
Murder Celeste Rivas Hernandez, nor was he the cause of her death. And we would like
Now we're seeing the blink rate pick up a little bit as she's saying that David was not the cause of her death. Watch his eyes right here.
Rivas Hernandez, nor was he the cause of her death. And we would like to be able to have the evidence come into the light of day at the earliest opportunity.
And as you can see, as his attorney was saying that, for a moment there, he looks over at the judge, and that way he wants to see the reaction of the judge based on what's being said. We do that as a way to gauge how everybody's feeling. Doesn't imply guilt or innocence, but it means that he's very aware of how everybody in the room feels, particularly when this is being talked about.
To have the evidence come into the light of day at the earliest opportunity in order to establish that. We're asking for...
You saw the head nod. He looks fairly calm when he's doing this. The one thing we're seeing that applies any degree of stress is that his blink rate is picking up some. But aside from that, everything is slow, it's calm. He seems fairly methodical with the choices that he's making body language-wise.
Earliest opportunity in order to establish that. We're asking for April 23rd as a 3
Shit getting strange. See.
We'll be very happy to put on the evidence that we've collected in this case over the last several months.
Thank you. So the matter.
So I talked about putting our chin up. She seems very confident as well. So right now we're seeing two sides that are both very confident in their cases.
Case over the last several months.
Thank you. So the matter, Mr. Burke, the matter will be set in Department 105. The matter is ordered assigned to Judge Charlene Almeida in Department.
This is a very casual way of saying yes. It's basically saying, yeah, that's fine. And it's a very casual way of doing that. We typically don't do that when we're feeling stressed. So he is remarkably calm under the circumstances.
Yeah.
In Department 105, the matter is ordered assigned to Judge Charlene Almeida in Department 105 for all purposes by the judge of the supervising judge of criminal.
Yes, Your Honor. If I may just put on the record, we have, as soon as the people arrive, delivered
Still standing with the chin up. We're still seeing that feeling of confidence right now.
a informal discovery request consistent with Penal Code Section 1054.
The blink rate picks up again. Once they start talking about discovery, you're seeing the blink rate pick up. That's really the only body language he's giving us. And even though that implies some stress, he still remains remarkably calm, almost cold.
The coroner's report was sealed in this case in order to prevent it from hampering truthful testimony from witnesses that testified at the grand jury. So an order will also have to be obtained in order to get the coroner's department, which is now the medical examiner's department, to release those materials.
Your Honor, it's surprising news given the District Attorney's Office held a press conference this morning where they discussed the...
So what you're seeing is that after that was said, you saw him lick his lips. And we do that when we're feeling stressed. Our mouth starts to dry out. We do tend to lick our lips. But he's doing it very slowly, which implies that even though there's some stress, he has it fairly well managed. This is not a ton of stress for him. He is able to shut down a lot of emotions, it seems like.
The Attorney's Office held a press conference this morning where they discussed the cause of death.
You can see how slow and controlled his behavior is.
Apparently under seal and not released by the coroner's office, as did the robbery homicide unit to the press. So we would again reiterate, we believe that Mr. Burke is entitled to discovery.
You can see the casual way that he nodded at his attorney. You can see the slow way that he's moving. He is extremely confident in what his attorneys are doing. I think that he believes his attorneys will ultimately get him off from this. I do not think that he believes he'll be convicted of this crime because we're seeing an extreme amount of confidence right now. And just to be clear, that has nothing to do with whether or not he's guilty. That has to do with whether or not he believes he will be convicted. And based on everything we're seeing right now, he seems very confident given the fact that this is a disposition hearing where he pleads guilty or not guilty, just pled not guilty. Seems very calm about the whole thing.
We have served the people with notice. They have 15 days to produce.
You can see the chin just keeps going up. That feeling of not feeling threatened, of feeling confident, just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Discovery in this case, we would ask that they do that
Psychopath.
in conscientious earnestness and as quickly as possible.
Report in this case, forthwith.
Thank you.
The matter set in Department 105, as the court indicated, April 23rd, 2026.
That was interesting. So after they said that the medical examiner is going to release the report in this case, you see him look down. That's a chance for him to process, to disengage from everybody for a second and think about what was just said.
Release the report in this case forthwith.
Thank you.
The matter set in department on 105.
All right, let's go and wrap things up here. Hopefully this is helping you better understand some of the behavior and body language that we saw today. Now, this is a strange case. We're seeing things about this case that are unusual. The way that charges are being brought is somewhat unusual. The level of specificity about what they're already saying they believed happened, the special circumstances. There are many aspects of this case that are not necessarily what you would expect. And it took so long for the arrest to occur. I'm very curious what evidence they have collected since then. So based on what law enforcement said, they seem to believe that they have a strong case against him. However, David's body language seems to suggest that he doesn't believe that this is going to go anywhere. We saw stress at times when certain subjects came up, but overall his demeanor was very calm. He was collected, overall appeared very confident, and I think he has a lot of confidence in his attorneys to get him off from these charges. I'm certainly curious about where this is all going to go. I will most definitely be following this case more, and I will be doing an update when the next hearing happens. If you have any thoughts about this, or if there's anything else specific you want me to analyze, please let me know in the comments below. Last thing before we get finished up is I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, thanks for watching.
I swear you are single-handedly keeping this place in business.
Come on, I'm not here that often.
Calling People versus David Anthony Burke. That's case number 26 CJC F02399.
Good morning or good afternoon, Your Honor. Blair Burke, Marilyn Bednarski, and Regina Peter on behalf of our client, David Burke, who's in custody.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
So Blair Burke, her father is part of the American Board of Criminal Lawyers, which was a good friend of my former law partner, and I've actually spoken to her on occasion. So Blair Burke has also represented Britney Spears and a number of high-profile celebrities. Whether she actually tries this case or not remains to be seen.
Mr. Burke.
Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman to the people, Your Honor.
Thank you. And counsel, on behalf of your client, do you waive formal reading of the complaint, advisement of rights, including armed forces and veterans' rights, enter a plea of not guilty, denying any and all special allegations, enhancements, and priors?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you're requesting a preliminary hearing within the period?
Yes, Your Honor. From the media reports, apparently there have been 4 months of
everything. Well, and they're a little scary because, you know, you fall over and hit the corner on a table or something. You don't want them to get hurt. But they're so innocent and pure. And as...
Was he the cause of her death? And we would like to be able to have the evidence come into the light of day at the earliest opportunity in order to establish that. We're asking for April 23rd as a 3 of 10, Your Honor.
Anything from the people?
We'll be very happy to put on the evidence.
We'll be very happy. Oh, look at that little cat fight going on there. I shouldn't say that because that's very sexist for me to say, but that's who I am. I'm sexist. But I want cat fight. We'll be very happy to show that your piece of shit client murdered this woman.
That we've collected in this case in the last several months.
Thank you. So the matter will be set.
You see if she does this number, that's like, I got you, girl. Fuck it. That really, this whole thing between these two lawyers right now, that's for the cameras. That is 100% for the cameras. So he's got top-notch legal representation, but they're starting out in a hole. I don't care how fucking great your lawyer is. I don't care how beautiful your lawyer is. I don't care how expensive your lawyer is. Lawyers can't change the facts of a case. They just can't. So how are you going to get those body parts back together and make them not dismembered? Not going to happen. How do you get those body parts out of a fucking bag and, it's not going to happen. How do you get those body parts that are in a bag out of a fucking trunk? It ain't going to happen. And how do you get those body parts that were in a bag in a trunk that are in his fucking Tesla? How are you going to change that? No lawyer is going to change that. But what they can do is try to create, reasonable doubt. And that's all they have to do.
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And he's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I say fun-filled, but it's a dark episode. We'll tell you what it's about in a second, but I'm your board-certified criminal defense lawyer here at your pleasure. Not Robert's pleasure, your pleasure. Today we're reacting to David. David got indicted. Oh, indicted. He got arrested, indicted. You know who David is. We'll talk a little bit more about who he is, what and what he's accused of, and how heinous this crap is. But before we get to that, this is brought to you by AskALawyer.com. AskALawyer.com is a very friendly and inexpensive way for you to get legal advice. You know, you can go to online and go to ChatGPT or, and give us an opponent $10. Right, folks. You need Fortnite, the video game streaming and all this other stuff.
I'm from Queens, New York. I'm in Houston now. I am
streaming and all this other stuff.
I'm from Queens, New York. I'm in Houston.
So go to AskALawyer.com. Okay, David, he's a pop guy. He started out internet and he did Fortnite, the video game streaming and all this other stuff.
Right. I'm from Queens, New York. I'm in Houston now. I am a gamer. I love video games. I wanted to be a professional gamer before music. That's actually what pushed me into music.
And he also did this song called Romantic Homicide. Now, when we first started our channel, our very first reaction was Murder on My Mind by YNW Melly, who's still in jail, by the way. We're going to have to do a reaction to him soon because I think his trial's coming up because he's been tried, I think, once or twice for that homicide. He's had a couple of hung juries. But now he's got Portland, so Portland's going to testify against him. But I digress. So let's just read some of the lyrics. I'm scared. It feels like you don't care. Enlighten me, my dear. Why am I still here? I don't mean to be complacent with the decisions you made, but why? In the back of my mind, you died, and I didn't even cry. No, not a single tear. And I'm sick of waiting patiently for someone that won't even arrive. In the back of my mind, I killed you, and I didn't even regret it. I can't believe I said it, but it's true. I hate you. That's a dark heart, isn't it? Dark heart. And if you watch that video, it's a dark video. It's so dark. There was a 14-year-old female that was killed, young lady, by the name of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Okay. She ran away from home, was hanging out with David, and all of a sudden she turns up dead in the trunk of his car. That one on the side of the road. And where was he at the time? He was on tour. The car got towed and brought into, an impound lot. And one of the workers there walked by the car. And it really fucking stinks. So he called the police because he thought it smelled suspicious. And they opened the trunk and there she is, dead in the trunk of his Tesla. We can't protect our kids from themselves all the time. How sad for this family, the Rivas Hernandez family. You grow up. You start out, you're a baby. Babies are whatever. I'm not a fan of babies. In fact, I'm against babies. I'm going to go on the record and say I'm anti-baby. I'm not really anti-baby. But, but then all of a sudden they get fun. They turn into toddlers. Like my son, Michael, he was driving down the road with my dad, and he was going through a Montessori program. He's just a little guy. And somebody cut my dad off, and my dad said, you stupid sucker. And right in front of my son. And Michael, without missing a beat, Grandpa, we don't say stupid. Sucker's just fine. Anyway, they're fun. They're just, and you can control them, right? Because they're dependent upon you for everything. Well, and they're a little scary because, you fall over and hit the corner on a table or something. You don't want them to get hurt. But they're so innocent and pure. And as they start to get more and more independent, like starting to turn teenagers, starting to drive or starting to just go off for overnight someplace, or, you can't control that, right? And so they're more dangerous than fucking toddlers, honestly. The other thing is, you take an object, right? If you have an infant and you take an object, put it in the front of their face, and then you take it away, it doesn't exist to them because they don't have perspective. They don't have permanency. Same thing with people who are teenagers. They don't have the foresight or the wisdom to see what their consequences of their actions are going to be down the road. They can't see what's going to happen tomorrow. You got somebody who's following around a pop star like this, she'll do whatever he says, right? And if she doesn't, she winds up in the fucking trunk of a car. How fucking sad is this? This is just so sad. This is what we know. We know that David was arrested. And he was arrested while, they're preparing to bring the case file to the district attorney's office. You remember when we did it? We did our first video on this like 6 months ago. The grand jury was convened, I think, in December or something like that. I remember on TMZ they were talking about there's an issue with the cops saying that they're presenting this to the district attorney's office, and then the district attorney's office having this in front of the grand jury for 5 months. Well, if there's an indictment that's sealed, they're not going to let that be known, right? So there's a little bit of cloak and dagger going on. So they arrest him. He's being held without bail, right? So now he's been indicted. So the Los Angeles District, this is from I think the press release. Yeah, from the LA District Attorney's Office. Victims decomposed and dismembered remains found in David's vehicle. Los Angeles District Attorney Nathan J. Hochman announced that musician David Anthony Burke, known as David, was charged today with murdering 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, whose body was found decomposed and dismembered in his car that had been impounded in September 2025. That's how long it took. And here's one of the things. Her body was in that car for an extended period of time. So one of the things that you're going to have is you're going to have decomposition, which can affect, the investigation. It can affect how you determine cause of death. Celeste was just under 14 years old when David Burke allegedly engaged in repeated lewd and lascivious sexual relations with her, according to Hochman. But Burke's actions did not allegedly stop there. When she threatened to expose his criminal conduct and devastate his musical career, Burke allegedly murdered her, cut up her body, and stuffed her body into bags that were placed in the front of his car. There, the dismembered body sat for over 4 months, decomposing until it was found at a tow yard on September 8, 2025. The horrific and gruesome murder committed by the charged sexual predator is shocking and appalling, according to the DA. Celeste's loved ones will get the justice they deserve. He was charged with 1 count of each of murder, continuous sexual abuse of a child under the age of 14, and unlawful mutilation of human remains. So when you have this type of case, it really is a circumstantial case. Unless it's a dying declaration, things that she says generally don't come into evidence. There's a rule called Rule 807. It's like if it has sufficient indicia of reliability, then it can come into evidence. But generally, dead men tell no tales. There are exceptions to that. But this is going to be a tough case for the government. It just is. Yeah, the criminal complaint also included special circumstances, allegations of murder of a witness, murder for financial gain, and lying in wait, as well as a special allegation that Burke personally used a deadly and dangerous weapon, a sharp instrument, to commit the crime. So the medical examiner has got to determine 2 things. 1, manner of death, and the manner of death is usually one of 5 things.
This shit crazy, bro. What are people saying about it on TikTok? I'm gonna wrap it up with that. Just go on TikTok.
You've been hit by, you've been struck by a smooth criminal. You've been hit by, you've been struck by a smooth criminal.
Prosecution just dropped.
This is sick.
This shit is fucking sick. It has just come out that David's phone had tons of, you know what, I can't even fucking say it, but I'm surprised Gideon did not get to this nigga before the police did. Cause how the fuck? And then they are saying they have 40 terabytes of evidence against this nigga. I don't think you guys understand how much 40 terabytes is. The One Piece series has like 1,200 episodes. 40 terabytes? That's like watching the series 11 times. To put it into better perspective, 40 terabytes is 12 million photos. Bro, I keep getting the no storage notification on my phone after like 15,000 photos. Nigga, 12 million photos? The real question is, what the fuck is the 40 terabytes of evidence? Like, what could be plastered in that shit, bro? Now, I guess we do have to take into account the fact that he does make music, so a lot of those terabytes or gigabytes or whatever could be music. But I'm not gonna lie, a lot of it is also some of that weird shit that he was caught with, and, you know, probably some proof in what.
Now, imagine 40 of those. You could have damn near 20,000 full.
David was found with, quote, significant amounts of child in his phone, according to LA County prosecutors. There is more than 40 terabytes of evidence regarding David doing this to Celeste. District Attorney Jonathan Silverman said there was a voluminous amount of data recovered from David's iCloud account and his iPhone data on his storage, and that they estimate it to be around 40 terabytes. David was found with, quote,
New reports are saying that child porn was found on David's phone, along with prosecutors also noting that they have 40 terabytes of discovery in the case against the singer, who is facing homicide charges. We have the autopsy back for Celeste Rivas Hernandez, telling us the cause of death, but also telling us that Celeste was missing an eye, 2 fingers on her left hand, including the ring finger where she had David's name tattooed, and several other penetrating wounds aside from the main 2 that the medical examiner stated was her cause of death. Also, another weird thing to note, but in the report it says Celeste was 15 at her time of death. What I don't see others reporting that I find interesting is that not only did the initial tox screen show that she was positive for MDMA/methamphetamines, but benzodiazepines as well. If you're not familiar, benzos are like Xanax. The final confirmed report showed that she was negative for all of these. The autopsy report outlined penetrating wounds of the torso with smooth edges that may represent sharp force injuries. And that's another thing to note. It's not saying she was stabbed, it's saying sharp force injuries. So we are uncertain of what type of weapon was exactly used. It further described a wound measuring 3/4 of an inch in length and 1.5 inches deep on her upper abdomen, which had penetrated the liver. A second wound measuring 9/16 of an inch in length and 2 inches deep was located on her left chest, penetrating one of the left intercostal spaces with destruction of the adjacent ribs' cortical surfaces. So the cause of death is multiple penetrating wounds, which if we look at the medical examiner's body diagram, the word being used is defect to describe these wounds, which are here and here. But if we look at the second page of the diagram, we can see there are more of these defects here and here, and then it says multiple defects on her back here. Her hand is also marked and states multiple linear abrasions. We can almost certainly assume those particular wounds are from her fighting to stay alive and sustaining these wounds during the fight. Prosecutors allege Burke killed Rivas Hernandez because she threatened to report they had a sexual relationship that began when she was 13 years old, and he feared it would ruin his rising career. A criminal complaint alleges he killed her with a sharp object and dismembered the body about 2 weeks later. The medical examiner's investigators called to the scene where the body was found discovered her torso and head in a black zippered body bag in the Tesla's trunk, with arms and legs in a separate trash bag. Her body was so degraded that examiners couldn't even determine her eye color. She had braces at the time of her death and a tattoo that read on the inside of a finger, according to the report. Her arms and legs were dismembered, and in a black trash bag beneath the body bag where insects were present. Toxicology tests on the liver showed a low level of alcohol, but
How
it
could
may
you
have
do
been
some
due
shit
to
like this?
postmortem chemical changes and didn't appear to be a factor, the report said. David literally had a music video of him cutting an arm off a girl and stabbing her in the chest, and he literally did the exact same thing to Celeste. I'm
What
going
the
to keep
fuck?
following this case as it happens, so follow for more.
Why would he? What? She reading that shit right off the paper too. So this is what actually happened. That shit is crazy.
We're now learning a little bit more of what type of evidence the prosecutors are trying to use.
other David, whose legal name is David Anthony Burke.
We might have just found.
We finally know the exact reason why David decided to take the life of Celeste Rivas, and it is truly shocking. So as all of you likely know, recently David was arrested and charged for the murder of Celeste Rivas, and a lot of people have been wondering for a while, why did David decide to do this to Celeste? And well, according to prosecutors, David decided to take the life of Celeste because she actually threatened to expose David for having a relationship with her when she was not of age. So David essentially took the life of Celeste Rivas because he wanted to protect his music career. I don't care what anyone says, David deserves the max penalty, whether that is life in prison or something else. Obviously, we're going to have to wait and see as to how the trial will unfold, but there is just no denying David needs to be at least in prison for the rest